Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. We're live ahead of qualifying for the Austrian Grand Prix, and we still have a lot of lineup decisions left to go. Zach, Terry, and I having a lot of debates off air, so we're just going live a few minutes early so we could just roll that into the top of the show here. Guys, what is top of mind for you as you try to set your teams?
Who wants to go first? Go on, Zach.
Well, I think we've both got quite different issues because my issue is with the final driver, B-tier driver. It's between Gasly, not Colapinto, Bortoletto, and Sainz. And the issue is I can use all three because no matter what happens, I'm going to have potentially, if I don't change my constructor, free transfers going into Silverstone, so it will never be an issue who I choose. So it then just comes down to who do I prefer on points, and I have no idea. I genuinely haven't seen anything enough from Gasly, Sainz, or Bortoletto for me to go, yeah, I prefer them tenfold above everyone else.
Yeah, mine's definitely in the constructors. So after the last race out, I'm in the fortunate position where I don't need to make too many changes. So I'm locked into that Piastri, McLaren, and Ferrari build, but I can move into Mercedes and roll a transfer. And I'm kind of wondering whether not to do it early enough, in the sense of I've then got free transfers for Silverstone, and I'm already out of Ferrari into Mercedes, which I would probably look at doing for Silverstone anyway. So I kind of toying the two up is probably the right phrase to use at the moment. Because performance-wise, I don't think there's a huge amount between them, or points-wise with pit stops and everything else. So I don't think it's a lot in terms of budget and points. I think it's more of a case of, for the first time in a long time, forward planning rather than sort of just reacting to something.
And for me, I'm right down the middle. Step one is get out of Lando because he's going to be a little bit toxic for the budget. Step two is figure out, should I keep Ferrari or move into Mercedes? And then step three, I think I'm also going to move out of Franco Colapinto. And then it's, do I go with Gasly or Sainz or something else that the post FP3 Sims from F1 Fantasy Tools tells us? So it's going to be a very interesting hour because all three of us are still debating it entering the lineup block deadline. So strap in. It's going to be a fun hour. If you haven't already, make sure you like the video. Got a lot of milestones today. Of course, once we hit a certain number of likes, we'll start reviewing all of your lineups. We've also got big news to share coming up in the next few weeks for our show. So once some of you get settled in, hit that like button. We'll share that news with you too. All right. We've already got some friends in the chat.
Wow.
Ooh, welcome. First question already is Zuby. Wants to know about Red Bull. Talked about Ferrari, talked about Mercedes, but we've got a home race for Red Bull, Terry. You're usually the guy that defends them.
But we're in that situation, aren't we? Max, absolutely, he's going to be in amongst it. Is Yuki going to be enough to pull them as a constructor? So it always goes back to these two things, isn't it? Are we talking about Red Bull as a constructor in fancy terms, or are we talking about Max Verstappen as a driver? Because I know the sims seem to be quite heavily weighted towards Yuki after FP2 from what we saw. I know they probably haven't updated yet, but I've not seen enough yet in Yuki to still give me that faith and that confidence in him over some of the other constructors we can go with. I think Max will be in the pole. I think Max will be in the podiums, definitely. But I'm still not convinced on Yuki giving me enough to sort of make me want to make a jump into Red Bull as a constructor from that point of view. I just think that, Mercedes, Ferrari will get you, better, if not the same amount of points, and probably a safer option.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Max is absolutely going to carry that team this week. He's on 5 straight pole positions. And when you look all time, drivers that have 5 or more consecutive pole positions at a circuit, it's Senna, Schumacher, Hamilton, and Max at this circuit. So it's really all time excellence at the Red Bull ring. So I think he's going to be quite good in this race. But will the pit stop points be enough? As of the post FP2 sims, it looks like they're within 5 points of the others.
Oh, we lost Adam. Me and you and Zach.
So maybe we can head over to the. I just had an ad play in my ears on one of the tabs I had open. It's totally thrown me off the head. Let's dive into the free practice times and talk a little about what we've seen in free practice 1, 2, and 3. All right. So to take it back, what's not on screen right now is free practice 1, where it looked like Mercedes were off to another great start. George Russell finished at the top of the timing sheets. Ferrari was struggling. Lewis had a car issue. They had Dino Bogdanovic in for Charles Leclerc, and he was struggling a little bit just as a rookie trying to find his way in an F1 car. And so that was the momentum builder that maybe Mercedes were on for a second strong week in a row. But then as you head into FP2 and FP3, it looks like Ferrari have made a comeback over Mercedes. Charles Leclerc finishing ahead of George Russell in both of those sessions. Even Lewis Hamilton feeling good in the car by FP3. So maybe the tide's turning a little bit. Did you guys interpret this the same or a little bit different?
I mean, it's always tough, isn't it? I mean, we know that, engine modes and all of these other factors come into play, don't we? We know Mercedes don't tend to turn theirs down too much. They tend to run at quite a level sort of engine mode. Ferrari tend to play with theirs. We know that Max doesn't like turning his engine up at all. So I don't know about Ferrari. I just wonder if Mercedes felt reserved this morning. It felt like they were trying something rather than sort of lagging behind. If you look at the Formula One sims and that side of things, they looked a lot higher, didn't they? A lot closer than what they probably look on paper for this. But then we go back into that heat conversation, don't we? We know Mercedes doesn't like hot weather. We know that the weather forecast is due to be hotter again. So I still got that niggle at the back of my mind about all of their updates this week were designed around cooling again. It's clearly a concern. You don't bring up updates for a team on cooling if you haven't got concerns about cooling, do you? So there's clearly something in that Mercedes. But then we see McLaren can run that same Mercedes engine quite successfully without the same problems that the works team seems to have, which is probably the most interesting thing, actually. When we think about it, you've got that Mercedes engine in that McLaren that certainly doesn't suffer anywhere near as much as what it does in the main team, which I suppose, McLaren are clearly doing something a lot better, as Mercedes would say.
Yeah, McLaren totally dominant to start the weekend so far. Mercedes, I think they are going to struggle a little bit with the heat. It's about 3 or 4 degrees C warmer than it was this time last year when George Russell took that win. And just looking back at the history of this race from last year, there were a lot of what ifs and could have beens from this. Charles Leclerc had contact on lap 1, and that threw his race quite a bit off. George Russell won the race, but he was the benefactor of the Norris and Verstappen incident. So who knows what the true running order is based on the previous year's result. We do kind of have to trust free practice a little bit here. So 1 bean on the scale for Ferrari to start the hour.
Yeah, but I also think you need to look at long-run data from FP2 as well, which actually had Mercedes quite strong still. So that's kind of at the back of my mind still. And probably if you look at timings of when free practice went, I know someone's put in the comments about Toto saying about Mercedes struggling a lot. Absolutely, but you kind of think, actually, could they do it? Could they not?
This is where I'm hoping that Red Bull do sort of get in the way a little bit, because Red Bull, no matter what, will be the differential where not many people are going to pick them. So if Max comes P3, absolutely perfect, because then it could be Russell 4th, Antonelli 5th, Leclerc, Hamilton 6th, 7th, and that's actually not much of a difference in points. It's just if one of the Mercedes gets on the podium compared to a Ferrari, then we're going to start seeing a big difference.
And then also still driver of the day is harder to predict than it's ever been before. Max leads the grid with 3, then Kimi with 2, and then it's a bunch of drivers with 1 after that. It'd be really nice if one of those Ferrari drivers could pick up a little of that, or the fastest lap, something that could get those 3 assets a little bit more love this week, because I know Mercedes has the momentum so far.
Absolutely. Lots in the chat today.
Yes, I see our friend Brian's in the chat, and I also need some more coffee. It's 9 a.m. where I am, so
I've got coffee, so I'm pleased to answer. I've finally got coffee back.
Terry, I saw that's like an industrial looking coffee machine you've got at your house.
It needed to be, mate. It needed to be.
That's amazing.
I'm seeing a lot of talks about taking negative transfers in the chat from Nicholas and someone. Now, interestingly, I think I'm going to have 2 different answers, which could sound quite counteractive. But for someone about changing Lawson to Franco, I think it would be worth the -20 just to not take that -0.6 in budget. Potentially could be a 0.2 increase in budget if Colapinto gets that 0.2, meaning that'd be a 0.8 difference for -20 points. I think I'd take that. But then for Nicholas, I don't think it's worth changing Colapinto to anyone like Gasly or Sainz for a -10 because that's a sideways transfer.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of questions, similar concerns to what you and I have, Zach, with that last driver. What are we going to do? Is it worth a -10? Generally, with that 5th driver, it's never worth a -10.
I mean, looking back at the constructors as well, 100 people have voted in the poll so far. Only 7% have gone for Red Bull as the best constructor out of Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull. So it's definitely the differential call. But Ferrari, yeah, they're leading on 54% at the minute.
Terry, I want to get your opinion on something because there's one driver that stood out throughout all 3 sessions, and I don't know what to make of Lance Stroll, who was flying all weekend. I don't see a whole lot of new upgrades for Aston Martin. I don't know. Lance doesn't have a particularly strong history at this circuit. What gives?
For a start, I don't think Aston actually brought any updates, if my memory serves me right, which is probably even more surprising. I think they were one of the 4 teams, I think it was, who didn't bring anything at all. I don't know, with Lance, you just wonder if it's engine mode. Was he running low fuel? Was he just, low fuel, high engine compared to Fernando? Were they running different tactics? That's the thing for me on Lance. It's kind of like when you see such a gap between Lance and where was Fernando in FP3 again? Because Fernando's actually been struggling quite a bit. I mean, ironically, I've got Fernando in my team at the moment.
He's down here in P12.
Down there, see?
We're not too far off.
Not too far off. And again, it goes back to what's the difference in it, isn't it? I mean, you look at that and it's only 10th off or so. So even though it looks quite a lot on paper, the reality is it's not a mass amount of difference. I mean, Lance has got a point to prove, hasn't he? He's got something to prove in terms of the past few weeks. Obviously, taking that week out, a lot of speculation once again. That's always a point to notice. But yeah, I'm not sure there's anything major which makes me want to get on the Stroll train yet.
Say, Terry, I want to jump in because I just got an alert that the FP3 sims are out.
Ooh.
And there's some big news in this bottom corner here. Look at the delta between Ferrari and Mercedes that just opened up.
Whoa.
Only 5 points, but this was Mercedes over Ferrari for the first part of the weekend. Delta between Norris and Piastri very close. And now Red Bull over Mercedes.
I'm surprised how low they've put the Verstappen delta compared to the McLaren boys, because I very much could think this screams right now at the minute. Verstappen, one of the McLaren screws up a lap and Verstappen's on the front row.
Yeah, and driver of the day because it's a Red Bull home race.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's take a little cruise just down some of these expected points just to see if anybody stands out to me here. Oh, yeah, look at Alonso and Stroll all the way up here. This is a big move for them.
I wonder where they're putting Gasly. Yeah, 1.5.
All the way in the basement.
Oh, no, because I've seen someone message as well, Gasly DNF threat, asking about the potential of that. Because I know people have been hit a lot by it, and I think that's why I'm more lenient on it, because I missed the only I don't think I've hit a Gasly DNF yet this season. I've been quite lucky with
you.
It. I know, tell you, that's why.
I can tell you exactly when they happened, because he was on for 0.6 million at Jeddah and at Monaco, and he DNF'd on both of them. And so it's not, I've been saying this all week, it's not logical to think whenever Gasly owes us 0.6 million, he's going to DNF, but it did happen twice in a row. And I feel like I'd be really beaten up if he did it 3 times in a row to me. So going back to your 5th Drivers Act, does this change anything for you?
I really don't know, and it sounds like such a bad way to pick an F1 fantasy team, considering we're supposed to be precise on the dot.
We did hairstyles. Mine have come out.
Honestly, I've had to try that because
it worked.
Yeah, because I still can't see Bortoletto. The pros are he can't go down 0.6 million. He'll probably go up at least 0.2. Cons, I'd be surprised if he got 8 points. But then Gasly, high DNF risk, as we've seen before this season, but could go up 0.6 million. And it's just how close do I want to fly to the sun? That really is the question. Can I risk it and get that 0.6 million one last time before the Piastri Russell builds? And that's what's making me want to pick Gasly, because if it works, that's me set for the rest of the season.
That's why it's so big for you, Zach. You're 1 or 2 good bounces away from a Piastri Russell lineup for Silverstone, and that is juicy. So you're trying to figure out what's not going to take too many points away from you, but what will set you up to not miss out on that lineup when you get it next week.
Yeah.
Guys, how are we looking on likes?
Oh, I
don't know.
can tell
You tell us.
We are. Refresh the wrong one.
Oh, Brad.
We are on.
Go on.
Drum roll. It's taking a while to load. 38 likes at the minute.
Oh,
So
right.
that's
terrible. That's terrible. Johnny, you had over 100 votes on whether or not we're going to use Red Bull. You know, it's just as easy to hit the like button. You know, they're along the same line.
Same number of keystrokes, that's for sure.
You know, that's it. We move across one. It's a little thumb, you can't miss it. You know,
Absolutely.
Oh, here we go. Look, it's worked. We've got 39 now.
perfect. So there we go. Oh,
Race Maven coming in hot in the chat. There we go.
Yeah, it's like pulling teeth in it.
Rebecca wants to know,
Rebecca,
Zach, what budget do you need to get to Piastri, Russell?
So I'm not exact on the maths, but I'm assuming if we're saying that Bortoletto is only going to go up 0.2, that would be the minimum. I think the minimum this weekend, realistically, not picking Lawson because that's just like a death to budget. It was around 119.2. So I'm saying coming into Silverstone, you're going to want around 120-ish million, because also that's the other issue that I'm talking way in ahead, and I've talked about this on Twitter a little bit when I was just putting my thoughts down. But also, if Antonelli scores well this weekend, it could actually be okay. Do Piastri Antonelli, because Antonelli could get a 0.6 million, do one last big push for budget, just in case we get to a situation where I could be running Piastri Russell, Alonso, Bortoletto, these very cheap assets, and it could be a race soon where all of them are dropping in budget. And then what do you do? Because you can't move around because the budget's just not there. So I've got to think about that. But yeah, I would say minimum next weekend around 120, 121, you're going to want to run Piastri, Russell, McLaren, Mercedes builds, which is not far away. It's not.
I've seen these questions quite a bit about final fix. Now, this is a really interesting debate between obviously Oscar and Lando. They look quite close in terms of free practice times. For me, I just wonder if Oscar qualified P3, potentially down with Max and Lando being above him, the points he would gain potentially in overtakes in the race and then get back up is about the same as what you could have winning the race. So surely that kind of makes the final fix a bit of a waste of chip by leaving that much budget on the table. What do you think?
I guess it depends on where we are with our teams, because like my situation, no matter what I do this weekend, if I go back to my team, because Norris isn't an option, I'd be running Piastri. No matter what I do this weekend, I'm going to have around 6-ish million in budget.
Yeah.
So I guess it's if it's that situation where you just are always going to have that budget left over, sure, you can just have it just because that's fine. It was always going to be like that. But yeah, if you're actively planning to try and get the budget for it, I understand. Yeah, I don't think that's the right call.
And for me, I'm happy to use Final Fix. No, as long as I have enough budget to get out of a mistake from my 2X driver, I'm okay using Final Fix. I wouldn't use it on a back marker unless anything really crazy happened, like Hulkenberg qualifies P2, then we might want to get out of that. But other than that, I think like Terry had mentioned earlier, either McLaren driver could fail to put together a lap in Q3. Maybe Max sticks it on pole. Then you consider a final fix around something like that. That's probably the most likely final fix scenario we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. A lot of big budgets in the chat. Good for you guys.
There is, yeah.
All right, you know what? Let's go over just to betting lines really quick. This supports some of the stuff we were talking about earlier. Norris slightly ahead of Piastri right now, but also Norris a bit toxic for his budget. So I think from a fantasy perspective, I'd take Piastri over Norris. Small margins here. Kimi and Lewis are tied. This gap between Russell and Charles has closed after FP2 and then again after FP3. So clearly Vegas is seeing something in Ferrari that we're not. What else we got? You got to come all the way down here for Pierre Gasly, and then the
Wow.
poor Haas drivers are stinking up the rear here.
How do we figure out Gasly's odds to DNF?
Yeah, maybe that should be a betting line that Vegas should run.
If you give me enough time, I think I can find the most likely drivers to DNF. All right. How are we looking at likes now?
We are on 84. Wow,
Okay.
that is absolutely brilliant.
All right.
Ooh,
We're gonna
Holy
go.
moly, we're already on almost 100. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody. You all delivered, so now we're gonna deliver. Let's start with the big news. Since your boys are going to the British Grand Prix. So we can't give you our whole schedule yet, tell you all the fun things that we're doing, but we're going to be there next week. And you're going to want to make sure to keep an eye on this channel, the FanAmp YouTube, as well as all of our socials at ZachGP_, Coffee Corner Motorsport, join_FanAmp, and FanAmp Fantasy HQ, because we're going to have lots of content that this space has never seen before. So make sure you check it out. We are over the moon. Can't wait to share it all with you.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Very excited.
Don't have to get on a plane. Bonus.
I do, but I'm excited for it. All right. As promised, let's get into your lineups. Let's start with Race Maven. This one came in earlier in the week. Is it wildcard worthy? I don't think so.
Oh.
I think you're already ready with Bortoletto here. You'll be fine with Hadjar. Let's get out of Lawson, and then you have one transfer basically between Colapinto, Hadjar, and Bortoletto if you feel like you've got to upgrade one of them.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, that team shows it perfectly, because we've seen a lot of people trying to move away from Colapinto, and I could see why. He's not the best asset to hold, but 5 points for 0.2 and 9 for 0.6. I don't see the rush in removing him if it means you gain an extra transfer in Silverstone or doesn't take a -10.
I like it. Hakon's in the chat, and congratulations on passing your exams.
Congrats, yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah, congrats.
Zach and I are just getting over Norris's race in Canada.
Yeah, with Piastri.
All right. So this is WD Ritchie. Wants to get a piece of Mercedes. Wants to get great B tier assets. How do we make everything work? I like this team on the left here.
Ooh,
Veterans everywhere.
I just think, especially when you go for that like double 8-year McLaren Racing Bull style team, it has to be with Piastri Norris or Piastri Verstappen. Otherwise, it's just not going to get as enough points.
Yeah, the points one, yeah, definitely.
And let's go back here to let's put some numbers to that points delta. Because if Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, they're up by 40, 50 points, V-Carb's down here at 20 points. So you need that last driver to fill a 30-point gap. Russell's projected to get 19. So you'd be out 10 points there. So to summarize, by the way, I like the team on the left. I wouldn't change a thing. This is Nicholas. Going to change V-Carb to Merc, Norris to Hulk. That's all looking good. And then -10 to change Colapinto to Gasly or Sainz. I probably wouldn't take a -10 for those options. Would either of you?
No, I'd move it if that's what you want to do, and then just keep it and not take the minus on it. I think you'd be okay to keep it.
Yeah, basically, I'm thinking Alonso and Hulk are must-haves for budget gain, and then everyone else, as long as they're in that wheelhouse of needing 0 to 10 points, they're all about the same. Here's Yanmar. 117.6. Nice solid budget.
Wow.
Thinking about switching out Ferrari for Mercedes, but the gap is shrinking. That's how I feel too. Likely Norris over Piastri. Ooh. I would just caution. I mean, I guess you have the budget where you can absorb it, but Lando's probably going down in budget this week.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be the Lando one. It then just is Ferrari Mercedes, the question we've been asking ourselves the entire time.
Good question.
What was the split, Zach, between Ferrari and Mercedes in our poll?
It was about Let me get up the results again. It was 53% to Ferrari and 39% to Mercedes.
Oh,
So people
interesting.
did think Ferrari. But I think it is, what we were talking about. It's got to be the pit stop points people are pushing them over the edge for, which does make sense.
I'm leaning. I'm going to have a very similar lineup, if not this exact lineup in the middle here. Leaning that way. I wouldn't blame you with the bigger budget if you go with Norris. I think I'm a little scorned after Canada, but if he didn't wreck your weekend, then maybe he's a good shout this week. He's gonna come on one of these weekends. All right, Havoc Gamer. I've got no notes on this team. This is looking pretty good.
That looks good. I'll say that one.
That's well, let's hit refresh. I think I saw a few come in since I last did this.
Interesting questions coming in. So just looking at the chat quickly. So would you, Brian's put, what about selling Ferrari for Sauber to go into a triple McLaren?
It's not crazy.
It's points is one, isn't it? Sauber's going to get you 0.6, isn't it? Budget-wise, but it's what you lose out in points still, isn't it?
Let's come back here. So then...
And that's the issue, because then you would gain that budget from Sauber, but then you'd lose it straight off Norris again. So then it equals out the budget, and that means you have to then score more points. And I don't think that team would score more.
Absolutely,
that's brilliant, Zach. Yeah, good call.
That's a really good point, actually.
All right, here's PWR Charlie. 111.1 million budget. Still looking to build and balance with points. I think we're all in that boat. Straight away, looking at Yuki in this middle team, I would probably avoid for the sake of a -10 or a -20 to get into all of this. Let's see. This doesn't seem right. If you're starting here, I think you can just make 2 moves and be okay. You could go Lawson to Hulkenberg and keep it if you wanted to. And then if you have any money to change around Colapinto or Hadjar, you could do that. But I think you could do it with the 2 free transfers you have without taking a penalty.
I think if you look at that start one, you could just go Lando into Piastri and not lose a budget for a start. And then that would surely give you enough to just move Lawson out, wouldn't it? With your 2 transfers.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Just 2 transfers right there.
Hulkenberg 2 transfers straight up there. I'll just go Lando into Oscar and then Lawson into somebody else. Yeah, like a Hulkenberg and get the budget gain.
Yeah, so it's basically this team only keeping Hadjar and keeping Colapinto.
Yeah.
I like it, Terry. Here's Will. Stuck between 2 options, both leave me with 3 transfers in Silverstone, so that's good. Got the budget to final fix into Lando. That's a good flexibility to have.
I mean, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because obviously you don't have the loss from the budget, do you? So that's a really interesting point, that if you switch into that McLaren Mercedes build, it does leave open a final fix into Lando, and then you don't absorb the budget loss here either for him.
How confident are we on the final fix on Lando, though? Exactly. I think even if he was on pole, I would be a little bit scared about him.
The thing is, I mean, we've seen flashpoints at Austria. We know that the top of that long straight is a flashpoint, isn't it? There's some places where you can guarantee, with a couple of drivers being in close proximity, that there's going to be some contact. There's going to be some yellow flags. There's going to be some parts, isn't there? Yeah, Austria's a track which, you got turn 2, turn 3, that sort of area. There's going to be something happening in those corners between all the way down the grid, especially at the start. So I'd say anything at the moment could happen in that thing. Safety car probability, all those things could play into it. So, such a tough one.
I'm sticking with Diago on this one. He says it's in the chat. Final fix for Verstappen, I think, is still going to be the most likely thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is hard because I genuinely don't know who's better at Ferrari and Mercedes. And the only thing that's helping me with my option is, I get that free extra transfer. But if you get the free extra transfer with either Ferrari or Mercedes, it really is flip a coin, see which one it lands on, go with it.
Yeah. I mean, looking at some of these, I mean, I wouldn't take a -10 for Mercedes to Ferrari at all.
No.
For a start, I wouldn't do that one. No negative, Hugo. I wouldn't run it. I think it's a waste of a chip this weekend.
Agreed.
I saw that one. Adam, do you want to take the question on free transfers?
Yes, I was trying to get to Lucas's question here. So you can get 3 free transfers by not using one of the 2 that you get already. So if you only use 1 transfer this week, that second transfer will carry over into next week. The most we can have in a week is 3, so it doesn't stack week after week. All right.
See, this is the exact same. Because it's got the differential, Mercedes, Ferrari.
Got a little of everything here.
These are basically, bar the Piastri Russell Piastri Russell builds. These are the best team selections you can go with.
I'm probably a little partial to one of these because I'll reveal my lineup in just a minute because I've locked it in. And we've been saying McLaren, Ferrari all show so far, so I'm leaning toward this third lineup. Like you mentioned earlier, Zach, the Sauber lineup is negated by the Lando price loss. So then it's really just a matter of Mercedes versus Ferrari. Which one do you think's got the form this weekend?
Oh, I'd like to add as well on the left team as well, just in case, because we haven't talked about Verstappen there as well. Sadly, it's the same issue with Verstappen as well, because he only needs 60 points. So their budget's just dreadful.
If you have one of these super budgets and can take the loss, I think the points will be there. So the benefit of having a super budget, but for us hanging out in the middle, I would avoid it this week. All right, we're at the bottom of the hour. Let me show you my team. It's going to look like all of the guidance I've been giving for the last little while, so don't be too surprised. It looks like this. Veterans everywhere. Got to stick with Hülkenberg and Alonso. I finally get a piece of Hülkenberg after 2 weeks, so fingers and toes crossed that nothing bad happens there. Going to get those price gains as best I can. Keeping Hadjar on my team just because I'm running out of transfers. Going with Sainz as the best of the rest here. I haven't even considered him all season long because he's been so expensive, but now at 8.3 million, want to give it a shot. The last FP3 Sims from F1 Fantasy Tools have him as a pretty higher scoring midfield driver, and then keeping McLaren, Ferrari, as I said, moving from Lando to Oscar.
I very much like that you've gone for Carlos. I do because because I generally, from watching Williams this entire weekend so far, I can not tell you where they are, but I think that sort of plays into the hand a bit because we saw what he did when he qualified lower in Canada.
What pushed me over the line for Sainz was that I follow Formula Data Analysis, and if you don't follow him already, Mirko does an incredible job with all of his analysis every weekend. Yeah. And in one of the newsletters I got from him, he was showing the difference between Williams' single lap pace and their race pace being much better than their single lap pace, which is why you're seeing them toward the bottom of the free practice timetables and why they might qualify low. But then there's a little bit of overtake opportunity in the Grand Prix. So I'm hoping we can get some points from Sainz that way. All right.
Oh,
I've locked mine in.
You've locked yours in, Terry. All right, let's do.
On the last one.
We'll do a couple of more viewer lineups, and then we'll have the big reveal on Terry because you're the wild card of the group. King Ace has 117.1 million. Another great budget. 3 stops this week. Again, Ferrari versus Mercedes. What are we gonna do there? Team on the right can afford Alonso. So I guess that's the question here is, do we like Ferrari so much that we'd keep Liam Lawson over the price gain of Alonso?
I think it would, in this case, it'd have to be Mercedes just because, Lawson can't be on anyone's team. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I would actually take a -20, even that, to get rid of Lawson.
I'm so bad at it. I wouldn't say goodbye.
Zach has an axe to grind with Liam Lawson.
Can we clip that somewhere?
But I agree. I think this is a great example of where we draw the line between Ferrari and Mercedes. The 0.6 million and the points benefit of Alonso is just enough to break the tie for me. All right, Jay Champion, perfectly good team. This is almost exactly what Zach is thinking about going into this weekend, with Gasly being a bit of a wild card for him, but no notes here.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it. Let's stay with it.
Right. Moving on to the next team. What do we have in the middle? Oh, I think this is the green team where you have to do some
Oh.
goofy stuff.
Oh,
I hope so.
Oh yes, team 2, old reliable green team. So it's basically team 1 or team 3. Which is wow, Piastri Russell, you can get into that now. Oh yeah.
wait, whoa.
Team
Oh,
3
yeah.
and don't look back.
See, I remember, yeah,
Absolutely.
because he was talking about having over 120 last weekend, I think. So yeah, I'm not
Absolutely. Jump into
Yeah.
team 3, lock it in, and kick back.
Wait, that
I think you broke him.
I'm trying to do the maths here. How much budget is that?
There are some people, if you're in the right Discord, that have 120 million that have just been playing the money game and are ready to put their cards on the table.
Unleash.
That team's got to be close to 130 million.
Josh in the chat
Yeah.
says around 120.7 to get here.
Oh, okay.
All right, here's Luca, 108.7 million. Had Norris. Looks like you had a bad week with the two of us last week. And now it's stick with Lando and V-Carb or pivot back to Oscar with Mercedes. I think I'd do Oscar and Mercedes over Lando and V-Carb.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
Good. All right. Let's pause here. Let's jump to...
We got to do picks, yeah. We can do picks.
No. Let's look at our picks. If you haven't been over to the FanAmp app yet, you're probably there dropping your lineup right now. Make sure you select your picks for this week. Who knows? You might even beat Terry if he forgets to set his lineups tomorrow.
I've done better. I've done better this day. So come on. You know,
you did great last week, actually.
I'm remembering my fantasy picks. They're the main ones as well, you know. Yeah.
Now, looking at the podium here, I think it's going to be a McLaren 1-2. You guys think it's going to be a Max sandwich?
If you're interested, he then just put Lando on pole, actually, which is quite interesting.
Oh,
No.
You know, actually.
Despite all the evidence that he's faster.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Putting it into the universe. How will the best Q3 lap compare to Max in 2024? We think it'll be faster, and Zach thinks it will be much faster.
Yeah, I got a bit ahead of myself on that. I saw the FP2 times and thought they'd be a little bit quicker than that in FP3. It turns out they were not.
All right. Which Red Bull team qualifies better on average? Yeah, the one with Verstappen on it, for sure. Which Toto protege has the worst qualifying? You know, he might be doing better now in light of FP3, but I think these two will be very close.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And then how many Red Bull drivers between Red Bull Racing and V-Carb make it to Q3? I say 2. You guys say 3. I think it's going to be Verstappen and either Yuki or Hadjar.
See, I think that Hadjar and Yuki will sneak into it. Along with Max, obviously.
Do you think the same, Zach?
I do think it's going to be, well, when I say good weekend for Yuki, I think in low end of the points. I'm hoping for some Yuki points.
Fantastic. All right, let's jump back into your lineups. LH Ferrari. Okay. Trying to build budget. Is this the infinity symbol for like limitless? If you're in the chat, LH Ferrari, let us know what you mean by this, but we'll just look at your lineups on balance here. And so this is, again, just Alonso versus Hulk and Alonso for the sake of Mercedes. And so I think this team on the right would be a bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's just it is that Lawson agenda again.
Producer Greg in the chat says these are arrows, so we're going from this team on the left to this team on the right. Budget build, 0 transfer penalty.
Right, I've got it. So yeah, so they can, yeah.
That makes sense then. Yeah.
Let's see. We're gonna hit refresh one more time. Make sure no new ones have crept in. We do have a few. All right. 3 free transfers, 115.8 million. Step 1. Zach will tell you to get out of Liam Lawson as fast as you can. If you've got this much budget and a second transfer, you could consider moving from Colapinto to the likes of a Gasly or a Sainz. I moved from Colapinto to Sainz this week because I like the delta between Williams qualifying and race pace. But also I'm seeing a lot of teams stick with Colapinto, so it's not necessarily a wrong choice to keep him either. Guys, Hakon in the chat's asked this a few times. Bortoleto or Colapinto?
I think my money's on Bortoleto. However, that does...
He looked quite good FP winning as well, actually. I think Bortoleto's long run pace actually was probably one of his better performances this season as well. Just to throw that into the mix. So I think based on that, in FP2 as well, his long run data was actually not bad at all for Sauber's running. So I would say that one.
We've got some questions in the chat to start dropping some other teams. So Terry, let me come over to you.
I'm just getting mine ready as well now. Just getting the tweet up.
Let's see if we can throw Zach off the scent with Terry's team. We can't. He went with Mercedes.
Oh yes, okay.
With Alonso, Hulkenberg, Sainz, Hadjar. So driver lineup is the same as me. Different second constructor because Terry is the agent of chaos on this show.
Yeah, my to be honest, my drivers picked themselves because that's also rolled me a transfer into Silverstone as well. So that driver lineup is the same as what I had in Canada. So my only change was Ferrari to Mercedes, purely because I like the idea of having 3 transfers for Silverstone. I think Mercedes and Ferrari is going to be minimal in terms of points. They're going to be saving budget. And I also would probably go more Mercedes than Ferrari at Silverstone. So I'm kind of moving out of it in case I need to leave 3 free transfers then to move those drivers around a bit. So that's my thinking behind that one.
Fair play. And Terry's on a roll, top 1,000 in the global league right now. So he's feeling it right now.
So don't listen to me at all because it's just based on hair and all these other wild things.
No hair decisions this week, it looks like.
Well, they all had good hair from last time out, to be fair. So,
I made a decision with my team as well,
Ooh.
based on the polls as well. Because
I
put a poll on. I put a poll on with will Bortoleto score more than 8 fantasy points this weekend? 63% said no.
I'm with them.
So you went with him?
All right, we got CC Riders on the screen here. Changing Lawson for Alonso. Do I make a second move Gasly for Colapinto or carry forward? This Gasly versus Colapinto versus Bortoleto question has been all throughout the hour here. It's mostly a coin flip. Do either of you have a preference of which Alpine? Maybe Gasly slightly.
I still just think on a weekend like this where free practice 2 and free practice 3 results have been different. We also haven't had a standout like big drive from. I know people are saying Bortoleto has looked good, but what was he 10th, 11th? I don't think that stand out enough for me. That would actually worry me a little bit because I would prefer him not to start there. So when it's that sort of situation, it really is, for me at least, not thinking about DNFs. It's who needs the least points to go up 0.6 million, and that is Gasly.
Fair play. Where's Wally? I like that name. Let's see. So now we're on a Ferrari and Mercedes duel again. My eyes go right to the team with Liam Lawson, which Zach would rule out.
So you're definitely not getting no Liam Lawson thank of invite.
Zach is staying out of New Zealand. So
that invite ain't coming his way, is it?
I like the team in the middle. I think the team in the middle is fine. Or,
yeah, team in the middle looks good.
All right, Zach, have you locked your team in?
Yes, I have.
Before we go to that, there was one question I saw earlier, which is should we be allowing budget for final fixing or not? Do you think that's? It's a tough one, isn't it? Because, like you say, the options of final fixing into Lando and all the other bits. Actually, is it worth leaving that budget on or not? I mean, I've inadvertently left budget on. I've got about 6 million in budget now by moving to Mercedes anyway. So I could final fix in Max or Lando if I wanted to, if something did happen majorly. I saw a question on budget earlier. I think I've got about 116 in terms of budget. Someone asked me what my budget was earlier. So there's enough in there if I wanted to do a final fix for those two. But I wouldn't say it was deliberate in terms of leaving budget for it. It's more of it's just there as an option. I wouldn't say it was in my thinking when I did it.
I would say, we have a few drivers. If you have Piastri as your 2X driver, you can afford Leclerc and Russell if anything crazy happens there. If you've got 4 million left over for Verstappen, that would be good. But somewhere around this 5.8 million that you need to get into Lando, I don't think we need to keep that much on the table in case Lando's final fix worthy, in case he holds it together for the whole race. I think it's a lot of what ifs if you have better options on the table.
Yeah.
All right, Zach, this is the moment of truth. Oh, there's so many Zach posts. What do I even do? It's Pierre Gasly. And Ferrari.
I think I make my
like button right now. There we go.
I make my opinion on it quite clear in the tweet where I just, like the poll said, I don't think Bortoletto is getting that 0.6 million. And this weekend is so big, I would rather go all in and bust to get that 0.6 million. Because if I get Alonso, Hulkenberg, Gasly, not even Hadjar, let's say Hadjar only gets 0.2 million, all going up. So that's 1.2, 1.8. That's 2 million just there. That is instant, definite Piastri, Russell, McLaren, Mercedes moves. And I don't know for sure if I can get to it if I play safe and go Bortoletto. So I like it.
So all the teams are a little bit different, but mostly in sync this week.
So what's your current budget, Zach?
At the minute, it's 117.6. So I need around 2-ish million to get to the Piastri Russell teams for Silverstone, I think, which is doable. Just Gasly needs to get that 0.6 million.
Oh.
I know. I'm very scared.
Wow.
There's a lot on the line there, Zach.
It's a lot of line with that Alpine engine.
Let's see. Do we have any other questions in the chat? Ferrari versus Mercedes. I think so at this point, Zach and I have locked in Ferrari. Terry's locked in Mercedes. The chat is favoring Ferrari, but there's still a lot of fans of Mercedes out there too. So it's very close all the way around. Signs or Hadjar?
Yeah.
I gotta come over here for that one.
Ooh.
Because they're sort of in the middle ground, those two, aren't they? Where
they really are.
Yeah, look, basically identical.
I think someone said if you Hadjar next week, he's potentially going to be the Sal, isn't he? Did someone say that somewhere?
Oh yeah, because the 16 is going to fall off, and he'll just have one, and then this week's total. So he'll probably be out for Silverstone.
I mean, if you've got a spare transfer and you want to do it early, it might be worth doing it as we move into science now. Potentially based on that. Maybe, if you've not got a lot to move to.
Zuby, how's the race pace of Merc versus Red Bull? So the race pace sims after FP2 had Merc and Red Bull very close together.
Yeah.
Just after McLaren.
Zach's making everyone question Pierre Gasly that in the chat.
Can we get a little Pierre Gasly poll in the chat?
Yeah.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Right. Yeah, right now, what we've got running is out of the three, who is the best B tier driver, Sainz, Gasly, Bortoletto. 50% think Sainz for this weekend. 34% think Gasly. Surprisingly, only 15% think Bortoletto.
Makes sense. Zach, take a look at Julian's team in the chat here, because it looks like there's a very similar. You're both in this high budget tier. This is a you kind of question. Terry and I still have a few bucks to make to be in this conversation. Looks great.
I like it. I think genuinely, if any team that can run Piastri Russell this weekend, obviously taking out DNFs because we can't really account for it exactly. No matter what happens race wise, again bar DNFs, that team will do better. So 100%, especially when we're getting to the point in the season where once you get to the Piastri-Russell builds with McLaren and Mercedes, there's not much else you can go up. It would only be getting that Russell potentially up to a Piastri-Verstappen, Piastri-Norris. But I think we can do that a bit slower because it doesn't matter as much. It's such a big leap compared to what everyone else is doing. I think you just have to do it, even if it means not having Hulkenberg.
You got enough budget anyway. Do you really need Hulkenberg? At 119.7.
Just being greedy now. Adam, how much does Carlos need to go up?
You know, it switches from a percentage to from the number to the percentage. I think it was maybe 2 or 4 points for 0.2 million and closer to 8 to 10 points for the 0.6 million.
Yeah, he needs 3 for 0.2 and 10 for 0.6.
So not crazy at all. You have a differential pit stop strategy, and you have some overtakes coming in out of that, and then you're most of the way there.
Ooh, is it worth a -20 to get to the Ferrari, Russell, Piastri, McLaren team?
I
love it so much. I want to.
I think it is. Because I'm trying to. Actually, I've got to think about this a bit more serious than that. Because that -20 is probably the amount of points difference, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's the thing then, because you're switching it to run the points, but if you lose your -20 points to get to the points, actually, is it accounted negative?
Yeah, it depends who the Russell would be replacing. If he was replacing Hulkenberg, probably no, because then you're losing budget, you're scoring similar points with the -20. But if it's, let's say you can keep Hulkenberg and it's Piastri, Russell, Hulkenberg, Alonso, basically, if you've still got Hulkenberg and Alonso in those teams, I'd say, sure, you could go for it.
Right, Adam, I think there's some more lineups, isn't there, before we...
Let's hit it.
Let's hit it, just in case.
Yeah, in case anybody hasn't locked in their team. J-Rob, 119.7. I think this is the one we just talked about in the chat. DM Oxford, or maybe it's DM Oxford. Who knows? This team looks great. You've got Piastri, Hulkenberg, and Alonso with McLaren and Ferrari. All good.
Yep.
Do one more check, make sure nobody else has come in. All right, great. Let's head back over to the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to light it up. We got 10 minutes left, and we'll try to knock through as many as we can.
Yeah. Worth taking the -10 to switch out Colapinto for Gasly. Oh, I'm not sure that's worth a -10.
I've been here, but I've been here before. You take the -10 and then Gasly bins it, and then you're just so upset. I wouldn't do it.
Oh, the French one, Gasly or Ocon. Which Frenchman are you going for?
Oh, it has to be Gasly, right? I know Ocon's usable, but
they've looked off it all weekend, haven't they? No session have they looked comfortable at all. They've been pretty much forgotten about us all weekend.
Ooh, Rebecca wants us to check teams one more time. Let's see if you. Well, we'll give producer Greg a sec to throw it in our slides here.
A question quite a few people have asked again is Sainz or Gasly, and I think we're quite split on this because I've gone Gasly, and then you guys. To
be honest, I've gone Sainz, but like I said, a lot of it is because I had Sainz before as well. So some of it is more of a bit of I didn't need to change it, so it didn't feel worth taking a transfer to change him out anyway. Certainly, I didn't feel any overwhelming urge to bring Carlos out and put Pierre Gasly in, based on what I've seen this season. If I'm honest, I certainly didn't feel any urge to burn a transfer that way. So yeah, I think there's some of that in there as well, rather than just picking them over the two.
And I don't mind Gasly at all. I just can't go 0 for 3 on Gasly needs 0.6 million in DNFs. I can't let him hurt me again.
I just want to answer Joel's question because that's literally what I've just done. So Joel's, if you got an extra transfer, would you proactively switch from Ferrari to Mercedes already, prepping for Silverstone? That's why I made the move, Joel, to be honest, because I had no transfers to use. I could have kept it with what it was because I had Ferrari anyway. But my thinking being, by swapping over, I'm not going to lose that much in points. and I've already moved into Mercedes then, and still got 3 transfers for Silverstone. So if you're like me, it's probably worth thinking about, if nothing else, because you're still going to get the same budget from both of them. So it's a case of points potentially, pit stop points, that side of things. So.
And I've already looked at the weather for Silverstone. Obviously, we've got a vested interest in knowing what the weather is going to be like next weekend, and it's going to be a bit cooler. It's going to be closer to Canada than what you're seeing in Austria this weekend. So right into Mercedes' wheelhouse.
Yeah. Hakon wants to know if he should final fix into Verstappen if he outqualifies Piastri.
I think we talked about this 1 or 2 episodes ago, where what is the difference between the driver you have and the driver that qualifies ahead of him where final fix makes sense? I think we said somewhere around Max on pole, Piastri if he's P3, P4. I think we're up for debate on that. If it's P1, P2, just leave it. If it's P3, P4, maybe worth the switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pietro is asking about Verstappen or Norris, and it is just their budget. It really is. Like if you were going to use them, like we mentioned, it would be if something crazy happened and you final fixed over. But Verstappen and Norris just aren't good enough on the budget. I mean, they've got Norris and Verstappen. It is 0%, right? Verstappen How would Verstappen get to 60 points?
He would need a ton of overtakes, like this Brazil last year kind of Verstappen.
Yeah,
with a bazillion overtakes. All right, I hear Rebecca's lineup is ready to roll. Maybe. There we go.
I feel like we should have a drum roll then.
I don't know if this is you, Rebecca, but we'll get to our Morales first.
It is Rebecca. Yeah, that's okay. Rebecca's one. Looking at it.
Fantastic. Current versus option 1 versus option 2.
Key transfer next week. Number 2 uses all 3 transfers.
So this is a little bit like the Terry conundrum, where this lineup on the end will save you a 3rd free transfer for next week, and you start the week with Mercedes.
I would say the only issue I have with option 2, so the one using all 3 transfers, is what is the budget looking like? Because if you're even planning on running Piastri Antonelli next week, you could get slowed down by just how many big B-tier driver prices you have on your team. So Sainz, he's expensive. Hulkenberg, he'll be expensive. Gasly, he's still quite expensive compared to the likes of Bortoleto, Colapinto sort of thing. So just be wary of something like that, because you might then have to take a -10 if you want to get to one of those teams.
I realize now I misread the question, where this is option 1 and this is option 2. So this one in the middle.
Oh, is it? Oh,
is carrying the transfer, because this is current option 1, option 2. Does that change?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Does that change your reasoning, Zach?
And Rebecca's only got a budget of 110.9, Jack.
Oh, yeah.
That sounded bad, Rebecca. I didn't mean that way.
No, but it's Terry, the top 1,000, and now he's.
As I said, I didn't want it to come across that way, because that was what I meant at all.
No, on that perspective, I get why, but also I would try get Alonso into that option 2, and then that makes it fine. Just because Alonso is dead set 0.6 million increase.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, let's head back. We can come over to the team calculator. We got 4 minutes left. So if you haven't hit the submit button, make sure you do it. And I'm just hearing now Quali's been delayed. Do we know why Quali's been delayed?
What's...
Terry's going to make a few phone calls.
To be fair, someone's put in the chat a quite interesting build. I think it's the same. I think we have the same answer for it, but it's the triple McLaren builds. But instead of Sauber, it's McLaren and Aston Martin. So obviously Stroll's been looking all right this weekend so far. Big differential. Not my favorite, but hey, if DNFs are on your side, I think that's the only way it could work out.
Right. So there's no start time yet for qualifying. It's due to an F2 crash, and they're clearing the track. But they haven't announced when it's going to start yet.
Oh.
So yeah.
Interesting.
Keep talking.
So you have a few more minutes to set your lineup, unless there's a hard lock at the top of the hour. I'd set it now in case there's a hard lock.
Yeah, don't risk it.
Yeah, don't risk it. Yeah, don't wait. By the way, if you are thinking lock your lineup and lock it in, don't trust F1 Fantasy to go with it.
Yeah,
they're saying it's only 5 minutes.
Oh, it looks like it's just
okay.
It's just a 5-minute delay. So yes, do lock those in now.
Yeah.
On the final poll for today as well, it ended Sainz versus Gasly. 57% Carlos Sainz to 42% Gasly. So Sainz is the favorite.
There you go. Because you've got
Sainz
great
is the
hair.
favorite for Youssef in the chat too. Welcome to the club, Youssef. I wish us many points. Gentlemen,
Absolutely.
2 minutes left. Any final thoughts before we break for this week?
No. I think it's getting interesting now, isn't it? Because we're getting to that tipping point now with budget building and big bills coming on board, aren't we? It seems to be we're really at that point now where actually we're going to see some movement in that with, like Zach said, there's some big budgets coming into play now, which I think is going to start shaking the rankings up a bit, if nothing else, in the next few weeks. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The game has gotten so fun now. I was just scrolling through Twitter to look at some of the other creators in their lineups. Besides Zach and Rain, every single one of us has a different lineup.
Oh.
So the game is as interesting as it's ever been. All right. Programming note.
Cool.
Zach and I will be back with our preview for the British Grand Prix. We're going to film it on Monday, and then I'm going to hop straight on a plane to head to the two of you. We'll let you know what the plan is for our live show. We've got a lot in the mix for next weekend, so we can't wait for you all to see it. As always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everyone.